Well, this is Reggie, so good morning, Reggie. Welcome to Viewfield Baptist Church. I gather you've driven all the way from another country this morning.
I have. I've come all the way from England. So, from Carlisle in Cumbria.
Well, how was your journey?
It was beautiful. It was stunning. What a morning to travel up north.
Yes, indeed.
I didn't bring my chicken.
Oh, you got chickens at home, right. So you live in Longtown, which is just across the border.
Yes.
But you weren't born or brought up in Longtown, is that right? Can you tell us a bit more about where you come from originally and what you've done before working
do you have a day or two? So, by my accent, you can probably tell that I'm not from the UK. I was born and grew up in Austria, in the mountains in the south of Austria. And I studied to be a kindergarten teacher, always loved working with children, loved nature, growing up between mountains, hiking and swimming in lakes and rivers, and was, normal and just really loved that. And after finishing my studies, I moved to England, as you do. And I was really passionate about community development work. So I spent 10 years moving around quite a bit, lived partly in East Sussex at Ashburnham Place, a conference center, but then always joined different mission organizations in different countries in Africa and South America. And I think in that time, I started to realize the importance of intentionally caring for creation, actually. Because coming back to the UK again and again, I quite often felt a disconnect between what I was doing in Africa, and especially like in Mozambique, the mission that I joined, they were feeding 500 children every single day because their parents couldn't actually feed them. And so coming back to the UK, I just thought, actually, they can't feed them because of the state of the planet, because of what we are doing, what I am doing here with my daily life. And so when I got back about 12 years ago, I started studying permaculture, learning how to live closer to nature. And that's also how I found Rocha, really. And so now I work with Rocha UK,
Right, tell us a bit more about Rocha, because not all of us will know what Rocha is. So perhaps you could tell us a bit about that.
The name, again, like my name is a bit funny. It's Portuguese, and it means the rock. Sounds like it would be a really Christian reason, right? It's not, actually. The organization started in Portugal on a headland where they started the first field study center, and this headland was called Rocha, which means the rock. That started in the 1980s, so quite a long time ago. And since then, the organization has actually gone global. It's a Christian charity that cares for nature and does it with people. And I work for Rocha UK, and we run, Rocha UK runs 3 programs, and it's all about loving God, loving His creation, and doing that with people, learning together how to care for the planet better in everything we do, really.
That's great. I wonder what your favorite bit of God's creation is. You're into mountains coming from Austria, or rivers, streams, forests? What's your favorite part of God's creation?
It's a really tricky question because I really, really love nature, just because I love nature. But being from Austria, I do love mountains a lot. I think I sent a picture. So I sent this picture not because it's my favorite mountain. I just love going up mountains. But that's the highest mountain I've ever climbed, which is called Weissmies in Switzerland. And it's just above 4,000 meters, which was quite a challenge. My first time on a glacier. And I think what I love about mountains is, first of all, the climb itself. It's really tiring. I am not very fit. So going up, it really takes everything out of me. And that's why I'm also quite slow. So I get to observe when I do it. Not with snow, you get to look at plants, you get to look at birds, because I have to stop again and again. And so it's just a really good time for me to just spend time with God in nature. And then once you're at the top, it's just breathtaking, isn't it? And so just looking at creation, looking down into valleys, it's just a time where I always feel really close to God. And
Great. You've already mentioned your chickens, so I wonder if you've got a favorite animal.
Again, difficult question, but I want you to meet Bingo Bob. So this spring I went down south again because I needed some sunshine and see friends. And so I stayed with a friend and helped him with lambing. And it was quite an experience. But this little guy, Bingo Bob, was sadly rejected by his mother. And so I got to bottle feed him, and then when I went back up to Cumbria, my friend said, "Don't you want to take the 2 orphans with you?" And I was like, "Oh yes, you don't need to ask twice." So I didn't actually intend to have sheep at all, but I drove home with 2 lambs on my back seat. And for me, they taught me so much in the last 5 weeks, and gave me a whole new understanding of when God speaks about him being the shepherd and how he goes and looks for the one lost sheep. Because I'm just a human, but I really love that little one. And the second one is called Frodo. He's not in the picture. But for me, going out to bottle feed them 4 times a day, it's the best times in my day. And so if I would lose one of them, I would be searching a very long time. And God loves us way more than we can ever love those little ones. And so I think for me it was just a really special time to actually get to care for a little creature and also learn what God teaches me about it whilst doing it.
So what time's the next feed?
They're down to 2 feet, so only at 8 o'clock I will rush back down to feed my little lambs.
Right, we'll bear that in mind. Sometimes I think as Christians, when we look at the state of the planet, with global warming and these massive trends, we can feel a bit helpless. And I wonder if you were to pick on one thing that we could do to help renew God's creation, what might it be?
I think that's a really good question, but a question almost impossible to answer, isn't it? I mean, there's so many things. You could look at plastic, you could look at pollution, you could look at food, how it's growing. And so I think to pick one, there's not one thing that solves all the problems, but I think the one thing that we could all do is actually start the journey. Like take one step, do one thing, even if it's tiny. If we all do one thing and very, very different things, together it actually makes an impact, and together it encourages to go on with the journey, to not stop. And so I think the one thing that I would encourage you to do is actually start the journey with making choices that are just life-giving for nature and for each other.
So you can fill in your own step on the blank screen.
I will share a little bit more about it later.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll look forward to hearing what God has enabled you to say, Reggie, but lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.